Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my god, stop fucking lying.
I think most people would agree that Marvel vs. Capcom is shaping up to be one of the big disappointments of the year. While the initial announcement generated a lot of hype, the HUD changes, the horrible facial design for the Capcom side of characters, story mode demo, leaked character roster, and the Day 1 DLC has pretty much killed all hype for the game. And this is not even including the announcement of Dragon Ball Z Fighters, which is like a more polished versus fighter than the originator of the genre, that being Marvel vs. Capcom.
What you say? Oh, that you only meant when.
Recently, GameStop posted an article that featured multiple interviews from developers. Peter Rosas, in regard to the lack of X-Men characters, said, "If you were to actually think about it, these characters are just functions. They're just doing things. It's just the functions that people are associating with the character, and there's no shortage of that." And on one hand, I can agree with that. From a gameplay perspective, having the various functions all that matter once people have the game in their hand. This is a fighting game, not a forum with people arguing which characters are better than others. When everything is said and done, all the competitive players are going to use the characters that serve the function or playstyle they need, whether they like the character or not. On the flip side, the argument is pretty weak. Can one really say that a character can boil down simply to their function, especially if they have a pre-existing background? The biggest issue with Rosa's statement is that it was said in regards to a versus game. Versus games, like Smash Bros. Or PlayStation All-Stars, as most people like to forget, function on the fact that its iconic characters are in it. Most people play Magneto and Wolverine not because of what they do, but because they like the characters, which I believe is a bad sign if developers only see characters as functions. When it comes to characters in these kinds of fighting games, the moves does not make the character. Rather, the character determines the moves. For example, even with the limited amount of knowledge I have, Wolverine is the kind of person that faces problems head first without caution. This kind of personality trait would inspire a close range or a rush down character. Now, I believe developers have more sense than that, than to only look at characters as a function, but the reason they gave is still terrible. As Willie Madden of the Super Best Friend Saibasu said, and I am paraphrasing, "You can't take the benefit of a versus game, which is the wide array of iconic characters to choose from, and at the same time ignore the con, which is the fact a lot of people are going to want certain characters in that game." I would take it a step further and say you also can't, at the same time purposely using iconic characters, say that iconic characters do not matter.